Thank you. And it's good to see some people here on a Friday night looking to score some ecstasy of the spiritual kind. So, yes, we're all pretty stressed out. Sydney, I've just come back to Sydney after living in the forest in Serpentine, W Australia. And Sydney is pretty busy and pretty intense. And I was speaking to a friend and I was telling him how fortunate I was that just recently I've been able to do 3 months meditation retreat, 3 months of our annual Vasa retreat. And he was kind of like, oh, I want some of that. I want some of that. But of course, he's too busy. 3 months is a long time, yeah? So how many of you could take some time out of your life to do a meditation retreat for 3 months? No? What about 3 weeks? Maybe some people? No? What about 3 days? Yes? Okay, good. Yes, very good. And so all of those people who put their hands up, when was the last time you did some meditation? No? What about 3 hours? Got some? No? Sometimes it's hard to even find 3 minutes to do meditation. So that's the problem, really. We kind of want this ecstasy, we want this bliss. We've heard about meditation that's better than sex. And yet, to get round to it is really, really difficult. How do we find time to practice? How can we explore meditation if we don't have the time to even sit on the cushion? How can we get the good stuff? And this friend of mine, he was kind of like, he was looking for a quick fix. He was like, can you just tell me the trick? Is there a trick? Basically, he wanted to cheat. And I was like, you can't cheat. It's just about being a good person. And so tonight, it's not really about any meditation tricks or tips. It's not really about the deep, deep meditations. It's really about the conditions and the causes that help us feel good so that joy and bliss naturally arise in the mind. So there is a little bit of a trick. And the Buddha talked about a couple of things, and I'm going to talk about those tonight. The first thing was generosity, or chaga, and the second thing was good ethical moral behavior, or called sila in the Pali language. So these two things are the foundation for the practice of Buddhism. When you think about these words, ecstasy or bliss, you might start thinking about where you look for those in your life at the moment. How do you find some bliss in your life? What is your ecstasy? And probably you'll find that it's something, maybe it's food, maybe it's night clubbing, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Maybe it's these things which are all pretty much of the sensory world, the world of our senses. So there's a wonderful sutta. A sutta is a record of the Buddha's teaching that was passed down orally and then written. So this sutta called the Bahu Vedaniya Sutta, which means the many kinds of feelings. This sutta talks about how many different kinds of feelings exist. And the Buddha was talking about all these different feelings, and then he got into pleasurable feelings. And he said, okay, so there's these 5 sense world pleasures, the pleasures of the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose, and the body. These are the 5 sense world pleasures. And he said, okay, some people might think that these pleasures are the highest pleasures you could possibly have. You might think about your own highest pleasure. What would it be? Would it be combining, I don't know, cake, coffee, and what else? What else could you put on that? Ice cream, cream with your favorite song in your favorite restaurant. Try to think of the highest pleasure you could possibly think of. And the Buddha said, no. This is not the highest pleasure that exists. There is another pleasure that exists, more refined, more sublime. And he was talking about these states of meditation called jhanas. And it's like, these are pretty intense states of meditation. They're very deep, very profound, and difficult to obtain. And yet he said, even those pleasures, which are pleasures of the mind, these are nothing compared to this next level of meditation. And then he says, there's another level after that, and another level, and another level. And so he goes all the way up this list of mental pleasures. And so here we have a picture that the Buddha is painting us of a world of pleasure that we haven't even dreamed of existing. Our world of pleasure is pretty narrow at the moment, just based on our senses, whereas the Buddha glimpsed this insight into a vast range of pleasures, much broader, much bigger than what we've experienced. And so you might think, ooh, maybe that cake is, maybe it's not so pleasurable after all. The world of our sense pleasures actually has a lot of limitations. Our pleasures don't last. You know, you have too much chocolate cake and suddenly you feel sick. You think that pleasure is getting that new pair of shoes or that new phone, and yet the shoes wear out. The phone becomes embarrassingly old. We're worried about losing them. My parents today were talking about their alarm system. So they've got an alarm. So I don't know what kind of treasures they have in their house, but they've filled it up with things, and now they're worried about losing them. But the alarm's not working, so now they're worried about the alarm. And so it's like, well, just get rid of it. What does it matter? But anyway. So our sense pleasures, the pleasures that we experience with our senses, they're inherently flawed. They don't last forever. They change. And so maybe we're looking in the wrong place for pleasure. And this is kind of what the Buddha saw. This is what meditation really is. It's a more sustainable form of pleasure. It's one that doesn't rely upon external objects. So it's something that we can take with us wherever we go. We can use whenever we want. We don't need these external objects to experience pleasure. The problem for us, though, is that we keep on hoping that these external pleasures will give us satisfaction. We try to add on more and more. We make ourselves very busy, very active, almost to the point of exhaustion, and then we can't enjoy anything. And a good story that kind of illustrates the problem with these things is the story about a king. His name was Bhadya Kaligotaputta, and he was around at the time of the Buddha, and he was a very rich man. He had treasures like my parents. We all probably have treasures more in our home today than what people would have had who were kings in the past. And he had so many treasures that he couldn't sleep at night. He had to have guards stationed at his doorway because he was so worried that someone was going to come and rob him or come and kill him. And he said he had no sleep, no peace. He was so worried. He was a king. He was in power. People hated him. He wasn't having a good time, despite having everything, all the right conditions to make him happy. He still wasn't happy. Eventually, he found out about the Buddha's teaching, and he renounced the world. He retired from the world. He became a monk, and he was sitting in the forest. And sitting in the forest, meditating, enjoying himself so much, actually, that he was moaning and saying, Aho Sukham, which for those people who know Pali means, oh, what bliss, what bliss. And these other monks were walking past and they thought, what is this guy up to? They thought that perhaps he was not being very monk-like, having all this bliss. And so they went to the Buddha and they dobbed on him and they said, there's this monk in the forest saying, "Aho, Sukham, oh, the bliss, oh, the bliss." And so the Buddha summoned this monk and he said, were you saying what bliss, what bliss? And he said, yes. And the Buddha said, why? Why were you saying this? And he said, well, in the past, I had so many treasures, I had so many things, but I was so scared, so worried, I didn't have a moment's peace. And now he'd given up all of those treasures, given up all his money, given up his palace, his family, his courtiers, and was alone in the forest. And there he had this bliss. There he had some peace. And the reason for this is that meditation is not based on material things. It's not based on getting things, wanting things, having things. It's based on letting go of things. This unburdening is a bliss. This letting go is a treasure. And so for someone like me who's renounced, taken the robes, I have no money, I have no income, I have no home, and yet I had this opportunity to practice meditation. And so this is where I put my priorities, and this is where I am able to get some happiness and joy from this bliss of meditation. But that means quite a lot to, turn your back on the world, to let go of your home and treasures, to not have that chocolate cake in the evening. And who's got the time anyway? I was speaking to a friend and he was saying, it's okay for you to, do your meditation. You've got all the time in the world. And I was like, well, actually, we have the same amount of time, you and I. But it's just about the priorities, yeah? I say that with my sister in the room who has a small child, a pretty busy job. And I don't mean to say that we actually had the same amount of time, because I can see why we don't. But maybe, where do you put your priorities? So if you can't find 3 months every year to do a meditation retreat, if you can't find 3 hours a month, 3 hours a week, 30 minutes every few days, 10 minutes, if you can't find that time, how are you going to experience some bliss from meditation? I don't know if you've got any ideas. The bliss of meditation that comes from renunciation doesn't happen like that. It actually takes time to get a nice feeling coming into the mind. And the reason for that is that we're so busy, we're so active, we've got so many things to do, we're so stressed. I've seen people walking down the street today, FaceTiming, eating their lunch, and walking and pressing the button to cross the road. And I was like, whoa, how can you enjoy that? So my first tip, if you want some bliss in your life, chill out. Nothing's so important that you can't do it one thing at a time. And when you're doing this one thing at a time, you're being present, you're being aware. And when you're aware and present, mindful, you can actually enjoy the thing that you're doing. Yeah? When we're busy, we can't even get a moment's peace. We're thinking about this, we're thinking about that. We've got to message this person, we've got to do that. If you're cooking dinner, cook dinner. You don't need to watch YouTube at the same time. If you're eating dinner, you don't need to be checking your phone. It's just a simple way to start conditioning your mind towards a simplicity, a single focus. The reason this is important, because so often when it comes for our one moment, we've been waiting all year for this one chance to meditate. We've finally gotten around to it. And then we sit down And of course, the mind is so busy. The moment you sit down, you think, oh, this is the perfect moment to clean the house. Or, oh, I have to do this thing. Oh, I should be doing that. Oh, what if I did this? What if I did that? Oh, I haven't had that chocolate cake. So our mind is like this. So if we don't do one thing at a time, we kind of encourage the mind to do so many things at once. And then when we sit down to meditate, we find it really difficult, really painful. And so we get up, we never experience any bliss, and we're not so sure about this meditation thing. So if we can't get deep meditation, we can still get some benefit just from stopping, just from slowing down. How wonderful it is to do nothing. In this culture at this time, we're encouraged to do so many things, do as many things as you can. Fear of missing out. We're worried that if we're not doing something, we're just not living. But actually, maybe living is just being okay with doing nothing, just enjoying simple things. Having nothing to do is so blissful. I love it at the monastery I live at. Sometimes I don't want to meditate. I've got nothing to do, no entertainment. And so I just sit and watch the kangaroos eating the grass outside. And it's so pleasurable. Or I just sit content, still. And it feels good inside the body. It feels good inside the mind. It's not agitated. It doesn't have to be somewhere. Because it's this busyness, this desire to do things, this frustration or anxiety that disturbs the mind and takes away our peace. But we need that peace if we want to feel the deeper stuff like bliss, happiness, joy. So if you can't meditate, then maybe you can slow down. And if you can slow down, maybe you can stop just for a little while and do nothing. Have nothing to do, to be no one, not have any responsibilities. Just be no one, going nowhere, doing nothing. And if you can't do that, maybe you can spend a few minutes from time to time just relaxing. And relaxing might seem like this kind of cheap version of meditation. Maybe it is. When people talk to me about why they're meditating, usually what they say is, I'm meditating because I need to relax. And you can imagine the Buddha kind of going, what? And the Buddha meditated to get enlightened. It's kind of seems like a pretty ersatz form of enlightenment. But maybe relaxation is really important. And to demonstrate that, I suppose, or to encourage you on this path, we're going to do a quick relaxation now, a guided relaxation. So it's kind of meditation light, but you'll see why we do it as we go. So I encourage you just to take a comfortable posture. So if you're sitting in a chair, try to have your feet maybe hip width apart and your back pressing up nicely against the seat. And just take the shoulders up to your ears because we've got so much tension there, and then roll them back so the chest is nice and open. And then just gently tuck the chin a little bit so that the spine is nice and long. Closing the eyes and letting go. Letting go of all the busyness, all the activity of the day. Letting go of all the hassles, all the stress, all the responsibilities of your life. To be here, now, in this present moment, aware and relaxed. and not worrying, not thinking about the future, not planning, just here, now, aware and relaxed. And as you relax, letting go of all the tightness, all the tension in the body. Consciously releasing, consciously softening. And bring your attention to your head, your face. Relax. No need to furrow those brows. You can just let go, relax. Feel the corners of the eyes softening. No stress. Feel the corners of the mouth relaxing, consciously releasing the jaw. Letting go of any tightness in the neck. Feeling the heaviness in the shoulder blades. Allow the shoulder blades to sink down, heavy and relaxed. And you draw the relaxation down the upper arms, softening at the elbow, the forearms, releasing, letting go of any tension in the wrist joint, relaxing the backs of the hands, softening the palms, any tension, any tightness, draining away through the fingertips, so that the arms, shoulders, the neck and the head are all relaxed, comfortable and at ease. And now coming to the back of the body, releasing any tension in the upper back, softening the spine, relaxing the muscles of the upper back, and moving down the spine, relaxing, softening the muscles of the middle back, and moving down, relaxing, softening the lower back. And now the spine, relaxed, comfortable, at ease. Coming now to the front of the body, the upper chest, the collarbones, softening. all the bones, all the muscles of the rib cage relaxing, even the lungs, even the heart softening. Letting go of any tightness in the abdomen. Here, just watching the gentle rising, falling of each breath coming in, each breath going out. Every breath drawing you deeper and deeper into relaxation. And now you draw the relaxation down to the upper thighs, softening, feeling the heaviness in the backs of the thighs. And letting go of any tension in the knee joints. Drawing the relaxation down to the calves, soft, the long bone of the shin, relaxing, the ankles, top of the feet, all relaxed. Letting go of the heels, releasing any tension from the soles of the feet. And softening through each and every toe. So that now the entire length of the body, from the top of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes, is feeling relaxed, comfortable, and at ease. And so you keep on relaxing, keep on letting go, scanning the body for any tightness, any tension, releasing. All the while relaxing, letting go for the next few minutes. And when the body is relaxed, the mind naturally becomes calm and peaceful. And so you keep on relaxing, keep on experiencing this calm, delighting in a relaxed body, enjoying a calm, peaceful mind. Just being here now. Any thoughts that come, we just let go, not getting involved, just relaxing, being peaceful. And when the body is relaxed, and when we're calm and peaceful, mindfulness naturally arises. And we use this mindfulness, perhaps becoming aware of the breath as it comes in and out of the nostrils, or watching the chest rising, falling, or seeing the movement of the lower abdomen as the breath comes in, as the breath goes out, relaxed, peaceful, and mindful. It feels so good to relax. It feels so good to be calm and peaceful. See if you can feel, experience this as a pleasure, a bliss, right here, right now, in this body, relaxed, calm, peaceful, aware, delighting in this moment. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Allow yourself a little smile on your face. You got through a busy week, and now you're relaxed, calm, peaceful. What a joy it is to be aware, to be present with your mind. And as you enjoy these last few moments, meditation, reflecting, how do you feel now? Is it different to when you began? Why? And now, just gently relaxing your awareness, bringing the mind back to this body, this room. And when you're ready, opening the eyes. How are you feeling? Yeah, nice to stop, pause for a few moments. I often think of meditation a little bit like a train. So when we want to come and sit down, it's like we've pulled the emergency handbrake on the train. And sometimes it takes a little while for that train to stop. We've been so busy in the world, every day working, looking after our family, going here, going there. So when we come to sit down, it does take some time for the mind to slow down. We can't just sit down and expect for instant peace. Can't just sit down and demand bliss and ecstasy. There's a process that needs to occur. So this process has to unfold at its own pace, and it will unfold at the pace of in direct proportion, in a way, to the amount of practice that you do and the amount of busyness you have in your life. So if you just think back to some of the words that I was using in the relaxation, there were things like letting go, relaxing, softening. All of these things are the kind of opposite things we do in our daily life. So usually we're grasping at things. Usually we're holding on to problems, responsibilities, tensions, tightness. So meditation is a reversal of the things that we usually do with our mind, with our bodies too. We're stopping, relaxing, letting go. And that's why sometimes it feels like it's so radically different to the rest of our life. And it's because it is so radically different to our daily life that people have trouble with meditating. They want to be busy. They want to have something to do. They want to get something. They find it difficult to fit meditation into their life because we're so accustomed to being busy, to being active. And so that's why for some people, meditation is really hard to get happening. And even when people have done a retreat, they've gone away for 3 days or 10 days, and they're feeling really confident in their practice, when they come back to their usual life, they can't sustain it. The reason for that is that the causes and conditions aren't there. and that the tendency that our mind experiences in a busy world is to go for excitement, activity, adventures, desire. And so that's why the renunciation is very difficult for people to practice in the householder life, in lay life. That's why monks and nuns have a slight advantage when it comes to meditation, because we don't have anything to do, and we can't go shopping, and we have no entertainment. So the Buddha didn't talk to lay people and householders about meditation just at the very beginning of these people's practices. He always spoke about generosity first. This was the first thing he spoke about when he would talk to people. And you think, well, generosity doesn't seem like it's got the potential for the profound depths of meditation. But it's very interesting why the Buddha talked about generosity. And when we start thinking about it, it becomes a very rich source of joy and happiness for us. The Buddha said that if we knew, as he does, the benefits that come from a single act of giving, we would never eat without first having shared. And we wouldn't allow the stain of miserliness, selfishness, to overwhelm our minds. So someone like me, a Buddhist monk, I am completely dependent upon other people's generosity. So you might think I have a vested interest in talking about generosity, but it doesn't actually benefit me so much as it benefits you. This act of giving is a rare moment in our life where we're not thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about others. And we have the opportunity in this moment to benefit other people. The Buddha said, when we give, we should be inspired, be joyful before we give. So we have a mind already, and you probably felt this inspiration when you go shopping for a friend or a loved one's present. You have this inspiration in your mind, they'll love that. So this is a kind of bliss, yeah? The mind is happy. Sometimes when it comes to looking for bliss in our life, we're looking for fireworks, we're looking for explosive bliss, but maybe bliss, when we find it, is more subtle, more restrained. Maybe we're not looking in the right place. And this is definitely true of something like generosity. So we have this inspiration of kindness, wanting to give something to someone, thinking, this will benefit them. And then when we give, we're happy. The mind is clear and bright with this act of giving. You know what it feels like when you give something to someone? You feel so good, yeah? This is a bliss. And then afterwards, we're gratified. We're satisfied. You think back on that sometimes. They benefited from my generosity. Bliss. Not only that, at that time of giving, you don't have any negativity in your mind. No defilements, no greed. You're not being selfish here. You're being generous. You don't have greed in your mind. You don't have any hate in your mind. You're not going to give something to someone out of the goodness of your heart with a hateful mind. So you have this beautiful absence of hate in your heart. And you're not deluded. You don't think, you know that this is actually a good thing to do. You know that generosity is good. So you experience kind of a knowing, a wisdom, not ignorance in this moment. And the Buddha said that giving is this bounty of skillful action. It's blissful. It leads to even more blissful, beautiful states of mind. It's a heavenly bliss. There's a recollection of generosity called Chaga Nusati, which is a practice that we can do in our own lives to inspire the mind. It's contemplation. What we do when we practice this is we recall some generous act that we've done in the past. And when we think about it, gladness arises in our mind. From that gladness, we get joy. So it's this escalation here of good feelings. Gladness brings joy to the mind. And from joy, we get what's called in Pali piti, which is rapture. This feeling of tingles or excitement in the mind, a really good feeling, this rapturous feeling. So we have gladness, joy, rapture. And then what happens? The body becomes calm. It's this natural process that occurs. In the same way, when we relaxed just then, the mind became calm and peaceful when the body was relaxed. Here you have this experience of giving, recollecting that giving, experiencing gladness, experiencing joy, experiencing rapture, and then the body relaxing. When the body's relaxed and you've had a good feeling like joy and gladness, you experience pleasure, sukha, bliss. This is a natural sequence. And then when you have this bliss, it's very easy for the mind to become calm and concentrated. This is samadhi. This is when we start really practicing meditation. And from that meditation, many things can happen. Insight, wisdom, knowledge. And all of this is a result of a simple act of generosity. There's a wonderful story of a woman named Visakha, who asked the Buddha for permission to give 8 different kinds of gifts to the monks and nuns at the time of the Buddha. And it's so wonderful, this idea of just asking permission to give, like what a beautiful thing. She told the Buddha this and he was like, okay, sure, fine. Why do you want to do that? And she said, the monks and nuns, they need, medicines, they need clothes. And he's like, yes, but what do you get out of this? And it was her that replied to him, and she said, well, I get to recollect on my generosity. Then I feel glad, then I get joy, then I feel happy. And she went up this list of good things, and she said, my spiritual faculties will increase. I'll experience faith in the Dhamma. I'll experience rapture. I'll experience the enlightenment factors, which are things like samadhi and equanimity. And so she could see the benefit in giving. This generous act is something that would allow her to experience very deep states of meditation. And so I tell you this because there's a possibility for you there, kind of like a cheat, in that you can incorporate this into your daily life. Giving. And who to give to? Anyone? My sister is saying give to me. Very good. Actually, there's a tendency we have when we're giving to give in a selfish way. So we have to be aware of this. So there's a beautiful simile the Buddha used, which is the simile of a rain cloud. The simile of the rain cloud is 3 types of people to be found in this world. The first person who is like a rain cloud doesn't rain at all. So this is someone who isn't generous, who doesn't give, who is miserly. Not a very good rain cloud. The second person who's like a rain cloud is someone who rains locally. So this is someone probably a little bit like us, who rains on people we like, people we know, people that we have a vested interest in. So friends, family, bosses, whatever. And this is raining locally, only on a small area. But the third person, the best kind of person, is the person who reigns everywhere. And this is giving to everyone who needs anything. If someone asks you for something, you give it to them. You don't know them, you give them something anyway. And in this way, the image, it's a beautiful image. The rain saturates the earth, filling up all the crevices, all the streams, all the rivers, and the whole earth is soaked in this beautiful generosity. And of course, you know that when it rains, things can grow. So we really are, when we're giving other people an opportunity to flourish. So this act of giving, to use another water metaphor, has incalculable merit. It has immeasurable benefit. The Buddha said that a single act of giving has so much benefit, it's like unable to be quantified. He said it's like trying to quantify how much water is in the ocean. This is how much good can come from an act of giving. So that might be quite hard to see sometimes, that something like giving can create such good things for ourselves and for other people. But you can think about the opposite when we don't give, when we have a selfish mind, a miserly mind, a mind that doesn't care about others. This can be compared to, the Buddha says, a dung beetle. You know what a dung beetle is? Dung beetle goes around collecting shit, and then it sits on top of its shit pile and it crows about how much shit it has. So this is what we can be like too. I mean, what's the point in accumulating all this stuff if you don't share it? Another story from the suttas, a story about the king of the area where the Buddha was living, who was coming back, and he ran into the Buddha, and the Buddha said, "Where have you come from?" And he said, "Well, I've just come from this miser's house, actually." And he said, what do you mean, the miser's house? Yes, this miser, you should see how he lived, the king said. He ate the coarsest, cheapest bread. He had all this treasure in his house, and he didn't enjoy it, and he didn't share it with anyone else. And now I, the king, who is the state, has inherited it. He didn't have any heirs for this treasure, any heirs for this wealth. So no one benefited from this guy's wealth. And the Buddha said, yes, it's often like this. It's like a pond, a lake in the middle of the forest, which is haunted by ghosts. No one wants to go there. No one can benefit from that cool water. But when people share what they have, when people give, this is like a cool pond that many people can benefit from. They come, they drink, they bathe, they can use that water. And so in this way, we can see the benefits that come from sharing. And remember that we have all benefited from other people's generosity. From the moment that we were born, we have benefited by our mother's generosity, our family's generosity, the generosity of people around us. And so there's a potential here for a great deal of bliss to arise in the mind if you're aware of your giving, if you're aware of these acts of generosity that you make. And people in Buddhist culture are really good at this. I was talking to a friend who is part white, part Asian. And he was saying that when he's out with his white family, they all have to split the bill and be really careful. You know, I paid for this, I paid for that, you know. And he said, when I'm out with my Asian family, I'm just realizing how racist this all sounds. He said, they fight over the bill. And it's this big performance. And it's true when you go to Buddhist cultures like Thailand or Sri Lanka, people are very generous, and it's like they understand. They've had a cultural, so it's maybe not based on race, but culture. They have this cultural understanding of the benefit of giving. And maybe in our kind of inherited Protestant work ethic culture here in Australia, we have this idea that, we're not giving to anyone, they don't deserve it. So sometimes it takes a little bit of practice for us to get into this mode of giving. But when you do, it starts to become a wonderful source of joy for you in your life. The more you give, the more you can reflect upon how enjoyable it is that so many people benefited. And then you get this wonderful feedback loop where you do something good, you get a good feeling, so you do it again. And you get a good feeling, so you do it again. And it goes round and round and round like this. And eventually you can become an expert in giving. The Buddha said when you become an expert in giving, you have 5 benefits. The first is that you are beloved to many, dear to many. And this is true. You can see this probably in your own life. Someone who is generous with you, someone who is kind, you like them, yeah? They have many friends. Usually people who are generous and kind have many friends. So this is a kind of bliss, yeah? To be loved is a bliss. So you're adored. And then the next one is that you're popular. People are attracted to you. You might think, yeah, that's right, because you're giving them all this stuff. But it is a beautiful thing for people to know that if they come to you, that you will help them. Yeah. So you'll attract many followers. And as we all know, having friends or having followers on Facebook or Twitter is an ecstasy. But even better in the real world, to have people who come to us knowing that if they need, that we can give, is beautiful. It's blissful. It's a real benefit to you. The third thing that is blissful and that is a benefit is that you get a good reputation. And it's true, yeah? Bill Gates, I don't know anything about him except that I know that he gives a lot of money. Same with a lot of philanthropists. And people who have supported me, Ruini came and brought me food yesterday. Nari gave me some juice today. These people, I've mentioned them. Now they have a good reputation. So you see, maybe they'll come up to you afterwards and ask for something. It's a bliss. So you can see how this works. If you're generous, yeah, of course, people talk about you. Oh, yes, such and such. They're so generous. They're so kind. This is a good reputation. This is another bliss. To have this reputation is a blissful thing. Struggling to remember the fourth thing, which would be that good reputation. Yes, Rowini? I gave it to you today, didn't I? Yeah. Oh, that's very good. See, where would I be without generous Rowini? So yes, you have confidence. When you have given, you can be confident to go into any assembly of people. And I think the reason for this is that when you've given, you feel good, yeah? And you feel sure, I've done something good for this community, for society. I'm a good person. I'm upright. And so when you go into an assembly of people, you can be happy, yeah? Sometimes, if you go to a party and you don't take anything, you feel a bit sheepish, a bit shy, and you're kind of like, just kind of go there to eat, But if you take something in there after that party, you can feel happy and confident. Yeah. So you can see how this works. And the fifth thing is that you'll always get good results from being a giver. Here, now, in this life, and in the future also. Even if you don't believe in future rebirth, you can probably see that at the end of your life, when you're passing away, you'll think back on your generous acts, and you'll die peacefully, easily, not confused, not with remorse in your heart, but joy, happiness, knowing that you have given and benefited many. It's always better to give with a warm heart than a cold hand. Don't wait until you die for your will to kick in. Give as much as you can now. Who knows what your family, what your children will do with your money? You can't be sure that your intentions will be carried out. So it's much better in this life when you have the opportunity to be generous, to give, and that way you get to see the results of your generosity. And this is the bliss that you'll be able to experience in your life. It does take practice to think upon this and to reflect in a way that brings joy to the mind, but it is something that I encourage you to do. And when you do it, you'll see that you go through these stages like Visakha and others have of recollection, bringing gladness, joy, tranquility to the body, peace and pleasure to the mind. And that's when your meditation will really take off. It's okay to enjoy your wealth. You don't have to give it all away. The Buddha talked in this sutta about 4 types of bliss that the householders can have in their life. So the first one is the bliss of having wealth. So you might think Buddhism, having wealth. But if you've worked hard by your own hands, then you deserve the rewards that come. It's okay. So there's a bliss in having wealth. We are so lucky in our culture today, in our society. We are so lucky to have, and yet so few people seem to enjoy the wealth that they have. You know, if you've got money enough, then be happy. This is a bliss. If you can pay your rent, pay your mortgage, if you can eat, buy clothes, bliss, yeah? No? You want more? Why can't you? We should be happy and content with this. So enjoy your wealth. You've got the bliss. And then the next thing is using your wealth. This is also a bliss, the Buddha says. So how should you use your wealth? Keep enough to sustain you and your family. Give away to those who need it, but retain some for rainy days. So this is the bliss of using. And when you use wealth well, when you're generous, you get that bliss that comes from generosity too. The third bliss, and I wonder how many people in this room have this bliss, is the bliss of debtlessness, not having any debt. Anyone? Yes, blissful. Yes, no debt. And you can see how this is actually a bliss that is hard to attain in Sydney's real estate market. Because, we feel all the time when we have a debt hanging over us that we don't have freedom. It's hard to kind of feel happy. If you've maxed out your credit card, you're always feeling a little bit worried, a little bit scared, could I lose everything, And with the mortgage repayments, it's always hanging over your head. And so when I know people who have paid off the mortgage, they're so happy. They just feel light. And this is what we want. We want to feel light, not encumbered by anything in the world. So that's the third bliss that we have. And the fourth bliss, which is the one I wanted to talk about tonight, and it's taken me some time to get here, is the bliss of blamelessness. For those who know the Pali, anavajja sukha. The bliss of blamelessness is when we are good people, when we don't hurt anyone, when we don't behave in a way that causes regret to appear in our mind. So this is a beautiful kind of bliss, which is the transition from generosity and worldly bliss. Having a debt-free life is a worldly bliss. Even being generous is a kind of worldly bliss. But now we're moving into the bliss that comes with the mind. The bliss of blamelessness is about being a good person, having an ethical framework, having a moral conduct which is blameless. And so for Buddhists, usually that will have something to do with sila, the 5 precepts. Some of you know these 5 precepts. How many of you here practice the 5 precepts? A couple of Buddhists in the room, very good. So for those who don't know, and I'm not trying to convert you or impose anything on you, so most Buddhists will take these 5 precepts, and they are pretty simple things, pretty obvious things, maybe, like not killing. So if you get through the day and you're a Buddhist and you haven't killed anything, bliss, blameless, yeah? Not stealing. I mean, it's pretty easy to understand how these things can make you feel good. If you were to steal, though, you're worried about getting caught. You're worried about getting in trouble. You're worried about getting found out. You're worried about getting rid of it. And so you can see how these precepts aren't like commandments, like thou shalt not steal. They're like, hey, if you want to be blameless, if you don't want to have any fear or worry about your safety, then this is one way to do it. So in Buddhism, happiness is linked to ethical behavior. And so maybe that's why we don't have any bliss in our no. Maybe that's why it's more difficult to get bliss and happiness and ecstasy in our meditation than we realize, because actually we need to have a lifestyle that is fairly good for us so that regret doesn't arise in the mind. You might think, hey, I'm a good person. Of course you are. You are the creme de la creme. You are here on a Friday night looking for spiritual ecstasy. And it's probably true. You do have a wonderful personality. You do have a wonderful character. But yet we know that there's oftentimes in our life where things go wrong. We get angry. We yell, sometimes we lie. And when we break our own moral code, that's when regret arises in our mind. So you don't have to be Buddhist. You don't have to do the 5 precepts. You don't have to have a strict moral code that is linked to the legal system or anything like that. You just have to have a sense of what's wholesome and unwholesome, what's right and wrong for you. So if you feel comfortable with your moral code, then that's something that you should stick to and try not to break. Because you know that when you do break this moral code, that's when you feel unhappy about yourself. Oh, I yelled at my husband again. I wish I wouldn't steal the office stationery and then feel guilty about it, or whatever it is that makes your mind feel unsettled. This is the regret and the remorse that prevents you from feeling good. And then when you come to sit down and meditate, your mind is agitated. You have difficulty sleeping. You don't feel good about yourself and your life. And then you get depressed, or you have anxiety, whatever. So in Buddhism, real bliss comes from being a good person and from being blameless. So that means that we try not to hurt other people. We try not to hurt them with our body, our speech, or even in our own mind. We try not to have ill will towards them. If you don't have ill will, then maybe you've got beautiful other states of mind like compassion and kindness towards them instead. So this is our opportunity in cultivating a good moral and ethical life to experience bliss. Because there's a process that can occur, a natural process. When you're a good person, things just kind of work out. It's like the lotus opening all by itself. It doesn't need to be forced open. It's not like you have to try to get the lotus to open. It unfolds naturally. And the reason is because you're doing things in line with the Dhamma or the universe or nature or whatever, or just even in line with your own moral compass. So if you have this ethical behavior, then you have the bliss of blamelessness and non-regret. And from that, joy will arise in your mind. From joy, can you remember what comes next? Rapture. And then bodily calm, this tranquility that comes. And you probably experience it sometimes in your meditation, where you get a little bit of piti or some rapture coming up in the mind. Then the body just goes, and sinks down. And then when the body is calm and comfortable, the mind can become peaceful. You experience pleasure, bliss. And from that bliss, the mind gets deeper levels of concentration, and so on, deeper, 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 more and more bliss, more and more happiness in the mind. And so this bliss is, the Buddha says, like the shadow of a mountain. A giant mountain casting a shadow at the end of the day. The shadow falls upon the valley, shrouds that valley in shadow. And this, he says, is like that bliss of blamelessness, that anavajja sukha, that wraps you up. And in the same way that we can do a reflection on our generosity, we can also do a reflection, a recollection on our good behavior, our good ethical behavior. And this will also bring about all that joy. But this process, if we are missing that foundation, it cannot flourish. If we don't have that bliss of good blamelessness that comes from ethical behavior, we don't have the proximate cause for non-regret. And if we don't have non-regret, it's not easy to get gladness and joy. So we don't get the piti. So you can see how the meditation is actually very firmly related to our behavior. And that's why there's that ethical dimension to Buddhist practice. The Buddha said that it's like a tree that has very few leaves and branches. The tree just can't flourish. The wood doesn't grow properly. The shoots don't grow properly. But if we have this ethical dimension to our practice, to our life, then we have the opportunity to grow. And the shoots grow strong, the leaves and the branches grow strong, and the bark and the wood grow strong. And then you have this beautiful tree that grows. So this is like our practice. I don't know what the time is. Does anyone? I can't see the clock. 8:30. So, okay. So what I'd like to do with you now is a 10-minute contemplation of our own generosity, just so you get a feel for it. And after that, we'll have some time for questions. And then you can go home. So, once again, just taking that comfortable posture and relaxing a little bit through the shoulders. It's a bit hot and stuffy in here, but oh no, it's okay. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, we're hardcore. Yeah. Allow for that sense of calm, that sense of relaxation to appear again in the body and in the mind. And so we reflect how wonderful it is in this world full of selfishness, full of miserliness. You have given. And bring to mind an act of kindness that you have done, that you can remember. You might have given some food, given a birthday present. You might have given your time, lent an ear. Allow yourself to remember that occasion very clearly. The inspiration behind giving, how it felt when you gave, and the satisfaction afterwards. How wonderful, how delightful. What a pleasure to give. Knowing that others will benefit from your generosity. Allow yourself to feel good. To enjoy this recollection of this act of generosity. Smiling to yourself. Happy. Feeling good. And keep on reflecting in this way. Maybe recalling other times you've given. Allow a sense of joy to arise in your mind. You are a good person. Every day, in many ways, you have given. how wonderful it is in a world full of selfishness to have given this generosity is incalculable. Reflecting upon our kindness, a bliss. And in the last few moments, reflecting, how was that for you? Was it difficult? Did some joy appear in your mind? And see if you can understand what happened and why. Looking at cause effect. And when you're ready, just relaxing your awareness and arising from the meditation. Coming back to the room and opening your eyes. So I really enjoy doing the recollection of generosity, but often when I teach it, people tell me they find it really, really hard. I don't know if any of you in this room found it difficult. For me, it brings up a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, and my mind is really lifted up, made very bright. But some people I've spoken to have said that in our culture, it's not considered very good sometimes to think good thoughts about yourself. Which is pretty sad, really, because that's kind of all we've got to work with, really, is your own mind, So it's good if you could encourage these beautiful states, reflecting upon the good things that you've done, reflecting on how good a person you are, and enjoying that, because it's this intentional doing, generosity, observing your precepts, observing your moral code, this intentional doing, which is what lifts our mind from one state to the next. It's this intentional doing that brightens the mind, purifies the mind, and allows deeper and deeper understandings of our mind to occur. And you'll find that when you practice in this way, your relationship with yourself will improve, and your relationship with others will improve too. So there's many benefits to this bliss, this ecstasy that comes from giving, from being a good person, and from meditating on these themes, and from meditation itself. And so I offer these few reflections to you tonight, and I hope that they may be of some benefit to you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now, or if you need to escape, please feel free. Rick. That's good. Sure. Okay. So yeah, regret is a really difficult one to deal with. I think that uh, all we can really do um, is come to peace with that, to just accept. There's nothing that we can do now. It's in the past. The only place that we can make any changes is in the present. The future is very uncertain, but in the present, we can make changes, and that will help the future. But for things that have happened in the past, we just need to acknowledge them and let go. Don't let them define you in the same way that regret defines you. Uh, in this present moment, you can change that. So allow for it to be okay. I didn't give, that's okay. I did my best. I might not have understood the consequences of my actions, but that's why I think Buddhism really impresses me, because it opens little doorways to things that I just didn't know about before. And there's one saying that the Buddha said, which was, all you need is the voice of another and wise attention. And this is, for those people who know their Pali, yoniso manasakara. So this is that wise attention, knowing the drawbacks of our actions and seeing the benefits of wholesome actions. And sometimes, unless these things are pointed out to us, we just don't know about it. And so we accept that previously we were slightly ignorant, unknowing. And we should feel happy if we come to a stage where we think, oh, I'm going to improve on that, because it shows that we've actually developed, that we have some knowledge now that we can use. Before we were ignorant, but now we have knowledge. And so this is a blessing for us, because it means that we can create change in our life. And that's the most important thing. What's happened isn't really important. What matters is what we're doing right now. And that's where we set up the stage for future actions to ripen. So, yeah. Buddhism, I love Buddhism because it's like, don't get too hung up on stuff. It's hard because these things have echoes in our mind. They do reverberate in the mind. And that's why the recollection isn't on all your bad qualities or all the things you haven't done. It's a really positive way of looking at the good things that you have and improving on those. So instead of paying attention to the weeds, watering the weeds with our attention, instead of that, we just pay attention to the flowers, water the flowers, and then the weeds kind of die off because they're not receiving any attention. So this is a skillful way that we can develop the mind, letting go of unwholesome, unskillful, unhelpful states of mind like greed or selfishness or hatred or cruelty. Getting rid of those just by letting them go and cultivating positive qualities that help lift the mind. So that's why hopefully when you see Buddhists, they're kind of good people and they're happy. So that's something to kind of aim for, whether you're Buddhist or not, just to have, lead a good life and to be happy about that. Does that answer your question? Yeah. You're a good person. You are. You're all good people. You must be. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. You're working on your minds, listening to kind of good advice from 2,500 years ago. So like, good on you. You had a question. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too, because sometimes as a Buddhist monk, people are so nice to me. Like Buddhist monks and nuns are kind of like considered kind of like targets for people's generosity. And so it's true. And the reason is because the people historically and today support a spiritual practice. So they support people. And people will often say to me, like, thank you for this opportunity to give. And that they come to the monastery, they bring food, they stay up all night cooking, they bring food, they give it to you and they thank you. And then they do the washing up. And you think, what are they getting out of this? And what they're getting is this good feeling that comes from thinking about other people and how they can benefit them. Doing the dishes is kind of like this mundane task that, because they're doing it in a monastery, is somehow transformed for them. And the reason is because it's in line with their values. And so they feel good. And it doesn't have to be like, I actually think we should support, everyone as much as we can, whether they're nuns, monks, lay people, homeless people, whatever. Just give and be kind to others as much as you can. And thank them for the opportunity of being able to give. It is really nice. And you see people's minds and eyes light up when they've done a kind act. And that's really the essence of the Buddhist path, I think. Yes, of course, you must. Yeah, you should. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So now is the time to practice. We don't know if we'll have another opportunity. So we could get hit by a bus at any moment, And so even in the monastery, actually you make the monastery sound quite exciting. And I'm not the abbot. It would be a completely different story if I was the abbot, because he is very busy. This is Ajahn Brahm, who I live with, a well-known monk, a famous monk, almost like a rock star monk, in that he travels and he speaks in stadiums full of thousands of people, and he'll get off the plane and he'll go and give a talk at our city centre, and he's incredibly busy. And he often will say, he'll often remind us just how busy he is, but he has this practice. He has a deep, amazing meditation practice. And he says what he does is when he goes to his cave, he stays in a cave, when he goes to his cave, he leaves the world behind. He's not the abbot. He's not anyone with responsibility. And I think this is actually a really skillful psychological trick that we can do in our own lives. So I said before that relaxation, that we want to cultivate this sense of being no one, going nowhere, doing nothing. And that's what we need to cultivate in our practice, just this moment where we kind of put aside all the stuff that we have to do, all the calls we have to make, the emails we have to send, the urgent things, the children, the cat, whatever. Prioritize this moment for your practice, because there is never going to be an end to stuff. It just keeps on coming. And if you're not careful, it will overwhelm you. It will overwhelm your mind. So the best thing to do is to cultivate a sense of detachment, renunciation, stepping back, stepping away for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, for a weekend from time to time. And as you do this, you actually put petrol in your tank. And as you do this, your practice improves and you have this sense of peace that will come every time you sit down. So I think it's better to do a little bit if you can, and the maximum benefit will be obtained from doing good things in your life, being happy with yourself, by having good interactions with others. So things like positive conversations rather than negative conversations, or things like hanging around with good people, or doing things that make you happy. I mean, it sounds obvious, but these kinds of things are really important. And other things like letting go of bad habits, letting go of controlling things. This is one of the biggest problems we have. We think that we can control everything. We get stressed. We're planning the whole time. We're worried the whole time. And then when you come to sit down, the mind is just completely frazzled. And so if we can just let go of controlling just a little bit, then that letting go is like unburdening ourselves. And that is a really beautiful thing. You can feel the weight slip off you. And when that weight slips off, that's when you get this joy. So if you can practice little things like that, sitting a bit more loosely to life. In the office, if something's like a big project is coming up, see how little you can do. What's the worst that could happen? No? Okay, don't blame me if you lose your job. But if you do lose your job, how wonderful. Because then you can go away and become a monk, become a nun. But you see what I'm saying? Like, sometimes we put so much, we invest so much into these things that we can't really control. And we think we have this illusion of control, but then everything is out of our control. Sure, set things up, plan them, but don't spend your entire life thinking about these things. So learn how to let go. And that's what that relaxation was about. These words that I've been using, relax, let go, renunciation, all these things are kind of like keywords to take into your life. And it's up to you to work out how you're going to apply it. But yeah, keep practicing. Yeah, keep coming to talks, do some retreats, and be happy. Arun, it's good to see you. Yeah, of course. Yeah. You don't want to have pity, I guess, do you? Like pity is in, yeah. Yeah. Separate it out. It's an interesting question because there's like giving is actually pretty fraught when you think about it. Like you don't want to be giving to like some scam or to some donating to some charity that's fake or something like that. And one of the big ones is, of course, when it comes to homeless people especially, it's kind of like, oh, they're not really homeless. They're just actors, or, oh, they're just going to go spend it on booze. And you think, oh, gosh, well, what do you do when you have a hard day? Probably you go spend it on booze. I imagine living on the street's a hard day too, So we make these judgments. But I think that it's not actually about them. So it's kind of like this selfish kind of giving in a way. It's kind of like, it's not about them. Like if it benefits them, it's good. But the reason that we're giving is also to benefit us. It's like a beautiful thing for us. And of course, in Buddhism, there's this kind of like cause and effect. So what we give, we get back is kind of like a karmic kind of model. So when you give, you're practicing, you're bringing about these causes in your own life of abundance and things like that. So that's the benefit for you. And that's a motivation to help others. And if they're going through a hard time, then it's good. What you're doing is good. you're giving, you're practicing compassion and kindness. If it overwhelms the mind, then we can't help them and we can't help ourselves. So we have to have this balance, you know. What use are we going to be if we're a puddle of tears in the corner, you know, unable to look at, you know, these poor puppies or whatever? We have to kind of just face up to this reality of the moment, do what we can, be generous, be kind, and then we can reflect on that. Don't be afraid to give, even if they are scammers. Like even if they're not really homeless, what does $2 matter? It's better than having this miserliness in your mind. It's better than having this selfishness in your mind. What does it matter? You can always make more money, you know. So just give without expecting anything in return. Yeah.
But what about, you know, as we all know, well, I don't know, I live around here, and then there's so many in that position asking for money.
Yeah.
You know, I try to give, or I go and buy, I say, do you want, you know, a little banana?
Yeah.
But how much, you know, then you feel guilty if you can't, you know, can't give to everybody.
Yeah. I'll leave that to you. I guess what you're asking is how skillfully can we give? And I think that we all have different amounts of agency. So some of us who maybe have positions of authority or power or abundant wealth can give a lot, can do a lot, can make structural change, can create real benefit for people. And others who have a little can do a little. They can do only what they can. And there's wonderful stories from the commentaries about one of the most generous householders, Ananda Pindika, who there's a famous story, he bought this land for the Buddha and he was wealthy at the time, so he covered the land with gold coins. That was the price he had to pay to buy the land from a prince. So he was rich enough to kind of buy this land and spent all his money on it. And then at another time of his life, he was so broke, he was really poor. But what he did was I think I've got this story right. He just took some earth and put it on a tree and kind of patted it down and just had this intention that this tree would grow. So it doesn't matter how much you have or how much you give. If you can't give financially, give a kind word. You know, we can always give a kind word. Or if you can't give a kind word, smile. And if you can't smile, then have an intention in your heart of generosity towards them, of kindness towards them. So there's a lot of non-material ways that we can give. Give the gift of time, give the gift of company, of holding space for someone who's going through a tough time. And that's fine. That's good. Yeah. So there's material gifts, and there's also gifts of Dhamma and other things too. Yeah. Probably should finish up now. Yeah. If there's any more questions, I can probably stay behind for a few more minutes.